the chatter.
Councilwomen, ready?
Yeah, sorry.
Cut the chatter.
I don't want to have to use this up.
We're on tape.
Okay. Ready? All right. Good evening. Welcome to the February 11, 2020 meeting of the Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Excellent. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. All right. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mrs. Russell?
Here.
Mayor Hurd?
Here. All right, presentations. There are no presentations scheduled for this evening. Reports from volunteers. At this time, are there any reports or comments from any of the volunteers serving our community? I see one waving around. Hello, sir. Frank, how are you?
Not too bad. After this, you might not think that, but... Actually, I have Frank Spazeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue, Vice Chair for Open Space. We had our Open Space meeting last night, and a few issues came up that I would like to just talk about. You all have executive sessions, your top secret meetings that you have. Well, we also do that in open space. We have an executive session also, which is also top secret. The only problem that we see is you all have a meeting and you make a decision on something. It doesn't filter back down to us if it involves us. At your last, I guess it's 2 weeks ago, you did.
Can I interrupt you 1 second, Frank?
Yeah.
After that meeting, I sent an email to the open space consultant and the open space chairman notifying them of the decision the council made.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
He didn't say that last night either, so.
Okay.
Okay, I'll refrain from that then. But even so, if I would like to be included next time as vice chair, if you're going to send out an email so that I can know about it too. And I'm sure Ryan knows about it because he was here at the meeting. And about that subject, I don't really want to discuss anything about that because you did in closed session. And my request is, if you don't have anything on the agenda for closed session tonight, and I would like to talk to you people in closed session about...
Bob, we're not allowed to have a closed session unless it's listed on the...
We're not allowed to do that, and we also have problems bringing in parties, Frank. We can come up with a way to have that discussion, either through Adam or through Adam and I relating it to the council. The problem when we bring third parties into executive sessions is then we're starting a practice of opening that up to certain members of the public, and I understand that your interests are different than everybody else's, but we have to be very careful with that. So let us talk, Adam and I talk about another way to sort of get your concerns expressed to the governing body, and we'll do that.
All right. We have done it in previous councils.
Yeah, I want to be careful with it. So,
and nothing to take away from this council, but anyway. The other thing is that in some of the conversation that went on last night, there seems to be a problem with the planning board, which we need a representation for. And I have here in my hot little hand an ordinance that was instituted. It's 0337.50, the establishment of the Open Space Advisory Committee. And it says they are establishing the committee, and The members that will be appointed by the town council, or okayed by the town council, is one from town council, one from Parks and Rec, one from environmental, one from the planning board, and 5 citizens. Now, I don't know whether you want to give this to the planning board, but somebody over there's got to make a decision that we need a representative on the Open Space Committee.
Okay, I'll just make a comment real quick, Frank. I know
Sure.
that they always ask, the planning board asks the members if somebody wants to be on the Open Space Committee. It's like pulling teeth, unfortunately. I'm not on the planning board this year, but Dave will attest to that also, that they always are looking for somebody from the environmental to go into the environmental meetings and somebody to go to the open space.
Well, we have someone from environmental. Did Angelo show up last night?
I'm in open space, I'm not
Open space.
environmental.
But
Has to be a member of the planning board.
Right.
but he's on environmental, and he's supposed to be the liaison for open space. Did someone show up
No, Tom.
from environmental?
Tom. Well, he's Parks and Rec,
Angela's there.
and he did environment also. Nobody from environmental was there last night at our meeting. Nobody from planning board was there from our meeting. Nobody from historical was there from our meeting. So we're missing like 3 people. I would just like to say one thing about this ordinance. I think we have to make a change to the ordinance, because originally it says that there would only be 8 members, and somewhere along the line, and it was before I came on in 2005, it was changed to 10. But the ordinance was never changed to 10, because you have 5 liaisons and you have 5 members. That's 10. So somewhere we're going to have to redo this so that it says 10, not 8.
All right, quick question. Adam, whose responsibility is it to do the liaisons? Is that internal from planning board and environmental, they elect somebody and place them?
No.
I think it depends on how it's articulated within the code. We've had some discussion about some different statutes call for it to be done a certain way. I know oftentimes governing bodies, not saying this one, but sometimes you have a vacancy on the planning board or the Board of Adjustment, and I just want to clarify for the record from Bob, it's not an issue if there's a vacancy, correct?
Well, it's not an issue, except that it leaves a board one short in terms of meeting their quorum and everything that they have to do. So that's where the issue
But
comes.
it's not a legal issue,
No, it
it's
doesn't
an
mean the board
operational
can't meet.
challenge.
It's an operational challenge.
Well, if I can just interrupt for a moment.
Yeah.
In the listing of how many members are there, it does say 5 citizens on the board. But up in the top, it says only 8, so we would only have 3 rather than...
May I?
So I might...
We have to work that through.
You want me to give you a copy of this?
Ms. Marsh has...
Ms. Marsh?
Frank, that's actually being addressed in the codification because it's clearly an error. So they're going to correct it.
So it'll
Right,
get fixed.
yes.
Okay.
Right. But again, so we can't force, let's say, environmental to put somebody on. So what happens when there's that situation if we don't have anybody on open space in that environmental role?
Based on all the conversations we had earlier this year about the Environmental Commission, if you don't mind respectfully, I'll just stay away from that one because that's a commission and there's different stuff
Got it.
involved. That's a challenging example. Planning board may be a better example and say, no, if there's no one from the planning board that will go, there's... It's the planning board's call. There's nothing the council... Right. You can request, you can ask, but there's nothing really the council...
I'm sure at the next planning board meeting, we can ask and see if we can get representation. I don't think it was really addressed at the last planning board meeting.
Well, in case you can't, I just filled out an application to be put on the planning board. And I'll give it to Carol so that you guys can look at it in June. Maybe you might want to put me on it.
Well, the whole idea between all these liaisons and open spaces, so open space has a global view of what's going on in town, correct?
Communication.
Right.
In the absence of that,
Communication is
what's
the
best
whole
way
thing.
of doing that? Sending Frank or the board their paperwork?
Minutes?
Minutes or
Minutes?
agenda?
Right.
The minutes, agendas, we can work on a way
But
to
there'll always be
facilitate
lag
communication.
An update, yeah.
Yeah, we can work on a way to make sure there's communication.
I mean, just in case, this is with open space now, what happens next year or a year that we can't get somebody to be put on there? Is there a process? And even with that process, unfortunately, we'd still be 30 or 60 days late.
Planning board meeting's open.
Yeah, we can make sure we get the minutes at a minimum.
So why can't someone from the open space just go sit in on a planning board meeting? They,
The whole thing to me is if you guys make a decision, and it's a verbal decision, and you say, yeah, okay, we're going to do this, the next group that comes in is not going to know what you did. It's got to be in writing somehow. Either it's by a resolution or some other thing that, yes, this is the way it's supposed to go. And that piece of paper tells you that you're supposed to, at least by ordinance. And an ordinance is
Right.
a law.
I don't see
Isn't
why
it?
we
It's part of a law.
I don't see why we can't get somebody to be a representative as a liaison. They may not be able to go to every meeting, but at
Right.
least then you'll have somebody that can go as often as they can, and you can have that communication with an update on like with a report or
Right.
a phone call if they weren't there, you know.
Well, I think one of the questions come up, and again, back to you, Adam, voting. So liaisons, do they have voting rights, or is it really the 5 people that are on?
It depends on how it's clearly articulated
No,
in the ordinance or the
Carol, does
statute. So I don't know.
the
how that's
statute say anything
constructed.
about voting, or?
It doesn't say anything about voting, but we always ask everybody to vote either yes or no, liaisons or not.
I mean, if they're not
citizens.
there and they're
Liaison-
voting,
If they're voting.
does that mess up our quorum, right? But if
I
they're
don't know
not
what,
voting,
first off, they're all members, they're not just liaisons.
All right,
It's
so
a
we
different
should vote.
they're members.
So then they vote.
so then
And they're
So they are.
typically recommended by the boards and then appointed by the council.
Okay.
so it's a 2-step process.
You could appoint them without a recommendation, but you might want to find out who actually
Right.
wants to serve.
Okay.
And it's an advisory board, so the voting is not there's not as strict rules.
They can't
Right.
authorize expenditures, they can't make decisions, they make recommendations.
Once we vote on it, then we recommend it to you guys to say, this is what we're looking for, and we expect you to either say yes or no, which you have done. And maybe everybody doesn't know, but the reason we want to have some interconnection with the planning board is that, especially the properties along the river on the east side of Route 23, we're looking for easements over there in the back of their properties so that we can continue the walk along all the way to the back of the properties. So if a property comes up that the guy's going to either build something or whatever, maybe we can work with the planning board and say, hey, we want a little piece of your property in the back. We don't want the whole piece, just something you can't use anyway. You can't build on the 50 feet from the river anyway. So why not either give it to us, or we'll pay you a nominal fee, and that's all. We went all through that about insurance and all that other kind of stuff, so that's, another story, but this is mainly why we want to do that. We just want to know who's doing what, and do we have any input into that? So just keep that in mind.
Understood.
And I'll get to talk to you and Bob or whoever about, then how will that be relayed to these people?
We can relay an executive session.
Oh, you can do it in another? Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Anyone else? Come on up, sir.
Hey,
How are you?
Ryan, this is actually relating to the...
Name, address, and
Oh.
board you're representing.
And what?
Volunteers.
Board you're representing, volunteers.
Board I'm representing? Okay.
We're still talking about volunteers. You want to talk as a volunteer?
Oh, no, as
committee, or-
a citizen.
Okay.
Wait.
1 sec.
Okay.
Any other volunteers? Sure, once, twice, okay. Next on the agenda is public comments. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period for public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anybody wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come to the microphone. Provide your name and address for the record.
You're up.
Robert Wasik, 7 Prospect Ave.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So you just saw me at the Historic District Commission, Ryan, and so this is about that. After you left that day, I was told by Jay, I was updated on the fact that I still had not been granted a spot on that committee. I think it was December, early January, Carol, you remembered that I filled out a thing for the Historic District Commission and the Environmental Commission. You knew why I wasn't on the environmental one, because there was some...
I don't know why. I pointed out that the Environmental Commission was full.
Yeah, but you had an explanation. Like, you told me, you were able to tell me that there was some guy in the running who was like an ex-town council member or something.
I do not remember that.
I do not remember that.
Okay, well, anyway, she was, I think there was less confusion about why I was not admitted to that one than there was about why I was not admitted to the Historic District Commission. So I think that day Ed and I went upstairs to see somebody up here. And
If there's two openings and there's 4 people that apply for the historic, council makes recommendation of who's going to take the 2 openings.
Correct.
That's how it works, right?
Yes.
So,
I'm pretty sure that what I said was I can't tell you what's in their minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I think Ed and I came up here, and then we were told that we should talk to you guys. I don't know who I talked to. It was a blonde woman up here who said she was going to talk to you, Adam.
Obviously, it wasn't Adam.
Diane, probably Diane.
Diane?
It was probably Diane in my office.
Okay. So that happened.
Are there any open spaces left on it? No. I mean, you're still, with that said, it's still an open meeting, so you can still come to it, and that's, you still have your input, so it's really,
Sure, I'm aware of that, but most everybody, Ed and Jay included, are confused about why I wasn't added and want me to be added.
Most likely we didn't have any seats
How
left.
many, I was going to say, how many
you think so?
applicants were there?
I'd have to look back in the paperwork.
The 2 meetings since then, Jay looked at the thing expecting to see my name, but didn't. He's the chair.
Bottom line is the council can appoint whoever they want to these committees.
So we have to look back.
Yeah, and I believe everything is filled. Is that correct, Carol?
yes.
I think someone just quit
I don't have the sheets with me. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, we'd have to look back into that.
Okay,
Yeah.
someone just quit the...
If it's not filled, we still
Council has.
have the right to appoint or not appoint.
Right.
Correct.
Bottom
Just
line
make
is,
sure
if
that
there
we
were
got
6
that clear.
applications and only 2 spots,
There were,
You know, I don't
think
know.
there was 1 spot because someone just quit. I think a guy named Bob just quit, and then I was the only application because no one goes to those meetings. It's a historic district
Just
committee.
because
Let us
someone
take a
didn't
look
go
into
doesn't
it.
mean that you were the only application. Sometimes
that?
we have 6 and 7 applications. It doesn't, just because you're the
We'll
only
look.
one that goes.
Yeah, let us look into it, and we have to look back to see what the paperwork was.
You should have gone
Okay.
saying that he wasn't appointed, didn't he?
Yeah.
and then we'll look.
Unfortunately, we don't have it with us.
Okay.
So.
All right, thanks.
But still, don't stop coming because,
I will not.
you know, it's public and
Yeah.
we need your input. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, we should.
None? Okay. There being no additional public comments, we will continue with the agenda. Next on the item of our agenda is the manager's report. Mr. Brewer?
Thank you, Mayor. 3 items listed in my report. The first is the tree contractor and tree list ordinance, which is scheduled for public hearing and potential adoption this evening. We've had a lot of discussion about that, so unless there's questions, I'll just move on to the next item. Sewer master plan update is scheduled for discussion. And lastly, just an update for the public and the council. We continue to work to acquire the easements necessary to proceed with the Route 23 project. It's something that gets at least daily discussion. Alec Midiga, the project engineer, Mr. Ustake, and I regularly meet with people, some represented by council with certain demands. We're looking to negotiate our way through the acquisition process. Presently, there's 9 easements outstanding, and 3 or 4 are very close to the finish line. There may be some other ones we may have to approach in a different way, but we're actively working towards that process.
Excellent.
That's my report.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, public hearing on ordinance number 2020-01. Ms. Marsh?
Ordinance 2020-01 is an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock, requiring the registration of contractors providing tree care services within the township, and revising the species of trees to be planted.
Okay, and this is what we were talking about last time, and it's all about the trees that are planted within our right-of-way?
That is correct.
And there are three primary accomplishments of the ordinance. One, it requires the registration of licensed tree experts or licensed tree care operators, which is a license issued by the state of New Jersey. They have to register with the Township of Pequannock. It also removes the list of trees that are allowed to be planted from code, because it should be managed by the Director of Public Works with consultation of the Shade Tree Commission, and it clarifies responsibility of maintenance of trees.
Excellent. Are there any comments from council?
No, I just know this was a recommendation made by the Shade Tree Commission last year, and I thought it was good that we're putting it in place.
Very good. Anyone else? Excellent. Is there a motion to open this to public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. No one? All right. Is there a motion to close this public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance number 2020-01.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Hurd.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda, introduction of ordinances 2020-02. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2020-02 is an ordinance amending Section 3A of Bond Ordinance number 2017-01 of the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, New Jersey, finally adopted February 14, 2017, in order to include additional properties to be assessed for the cost of the Route 23 sewer project.
All right. Are there any comments from council?
No.
Mr. Brewer, any comments?
As previously discussed, there are lots that were identified that may be served by the Route 23 project that were not included in the original ordinance, so that is being corrected at this time.
So this is really just more about clarification.
Correct.
Excellent.
And we got them all now, right?
All right, any other comments from council?
No.
Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Hurd.
Yes. Next on the agenda item is resolutions. Mrs. Marsh.
Beginning with R 2020-69, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 2020-70, authorizing release of bond for Carl and Morris Associates Incorporated. 2020-71, authorizing release of designated escrow deposits. 2020-72, authorizing the settlement of a sanitary sewer assessment appeal and the execution of a consent order for final judgment for the First Reformed Dutch Church of Pompton Plains. R 2020-73, authorizing the settlement of a sanitary sewer assessment appeal and the execution of a consent order for final judgment for the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Our Savior. And R 2020-74, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the February 7th, 2020 bill list.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any comments on the resolution from council? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-69 through 74.
Is there a second? Excellent. Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes, but I'll abstain from R 2020-72.
So do we have to vote on this separate, Bob?
No, I think we're okay. We have an abstention on that on the record. Thank you, Rich.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Hurd.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda, items for discussion. Ordinance amending chapters 152 and 163 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor. As discussed previously, there was a draft plan handed out to the Township Council. There was conversation at the last council meeting about eliminating the requirement for non-public projects to require mandatory connection. So if it were a private project, it wouldn't require someone to connect within the 3-year time frame that's currently in the ordinance. The plan was updated to include that language. The other thing is the technical details for connections was added as the appendix. So those are the only changes from the plan that had been previously reviewed and discussed. Additionally, the draft ordinance was included in the packet. and it had previously been reviewed by council in 2019, similar to the draft updated plan. The change to that ordinance also recognizes the elimination of the requirement for connection when it's not a public project.
Okay, so again, just to clarify, if somebody is bringing a sewer up the road, number one, it has to be sized as if we were going to do it. And number two, that does not trigger somebody that is close to that sewer a mandatory hookup.
Correct. So for example, if I've just replaced my septic system and my neighbors decide to run a pipe, I'm not compelled to connect at that time.
However, if your system is failing, you are compelled to hook up to that, correct?
If my system is failing, based on state administrative code, I'm not able to be issued a septic permit because there's a sewer within 100 feet.
Up the creek without a path.
Well,
as long as it flows downhill.
But the benefit is instead of putting 30,000 into a septic, you would connect to a sewer
No,
line.
I understand that. I just want to make sure we look at everything.
Absolutely.
Because a member of the community came up in front of us talking about spaghetti lines.
Yes, those issues are addressed in the technical details. Alec Mitica, project engineer, is here in case there's any technical questions, because I will certainly not be able to answer them. And, Alec and I did discuss the preservation of the priority areas, which I understand was a priority for council last meeting when we discussed it, to make sure we didn't give away something that was reserved, so that would be encumbered moving forward. And if there's questions of Alec.
So I have some questions for Alec.
Alec, please come on up. State your name for clarification. Who are you? Where you come from?
Alex Mediga from Crew Engineers.
How you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So how much are we going to set aside, and how is that going to affect the overall capacity? And when I read your report, you talk about if we plug all the holes, we have plenty of capacity, which is unrealistic. We will never plug all of the holes. You know that. I know that. Everybody up here knows that. So if we were to set aside certain areas of the town, or I guess volume, or however capacity, how much is left? In a wet year.
Right. So
let me add that to that.
So based on the worst case, which just happened, there was still enough capacity to sewer the remaining priority areas and still have, I think it was around 120,000 gallons a day. 120,000 gallons a day.
Equate that to houses. How many houses?
Maybe around 400 houses.
400 houses. On a wet.
Yes, during a wet
worst case scenario?
In a worst case scenario.
Yes.
So we would still have enough capacity to take care of
the dog park is closed down, the shooting range is closed down because of flooding, but we still have capacity.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
I think my biggest concern is just opening up a door that we can't
Pandora's
close.
box.
Yeah, Pandora's box, basically. We're just by saying we have plenty, anybody who wants to hook up can hook up, have at it.
But we still have the final word, correct?
Who does?
If there's an expansion of the sewer main, Alec, correct me if I goof this up, because I'm jumping into deep waters. If there's an extension of the sewer main, then the treatment works application is required, and the council would be able to weigh in on that, correct? There was a hearing necessary based upon our plan?
Right, so the way the code is currently written, any requests for extensions need the council authorization.
So we have a person coming in, let's say they want to put 5 houses up. They have to come in front of the council for approval on the sewer.
Or it could be through some application process, but the council could say yes or no.
Okay, you said could though. Is it an application process or and what happens, when the first couple of people we say yes and then we realized, Al was wrong. Yeah, oops, because there's been a couple of oopses lately that I'm a little concerned about. So I'm just afraid of opening up a door. Then all of a sudden, when somebody else wants one, I hear rumors of hotels going up and everything else going up, and then we let people who want to hypothetically put in a new subdivision, and then all of a sudden, people that we promised them to, sorry, we were wrong.
Right, so it's just going to be an ongoing process where you evaluate how much capacity you have, what people are requesting, how much you want to reserve for those priority areas.
And again, just to clarify again, priority areas or not, we have no appetite in any of the near future to be sewering any more of town.
We don't have the money.
Right, so it's kind of a moot,
Some millionaire may leave us a whole bunch of money. I doubt
but it's
it.
kind of a moot hypothetical question at this point.
It's not,
Unless
because
there's
we're
some big
looking,
commercial project.
right.
Yeah.
Ryan, you could be looking 30 years down the line here.
Right, we're not thinking of right now.
Don't
We're
think
thinking
5
of
years
the
down the
future.
road. You need to look 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, but I believe that we got that covered right
Well,
now.
that's the point, that we
Right.
have to make sure that we have that capacity reserved and nobody can tap into that.
Just to share my experience serving in multiple municipalities.
Is this the last one?
I don't know. It's half up to you, half up to me.
That was
so
one of my questions.
You never know.
Is what am I gonna do with
The other municipalities may not have capacity to sewer every property in the town, but what they do is it's a first come first served basis, and there's a constant communication with the facility that treats the effluent. And when you come up to a point where you're getting to the maximum of your capacity, then there's a moratorium on future development. So it's not as if, it's not common to have it so well thought out as it has been in the township of Pequannock. I'll say it that way. It's been more of just a first come, first served basis. The governing body hasn't been as engaged in it. It's really been more of just an administrative function, and it really only became an issue when it was, we don't have the capacity that we thought we did, now we have to slow down. So I don't know, Alec, in your experience in the municipalities, Bob, that's really been
Yeah, our
what I've
town's
seen.
kind of built out. I mean, it's not like,
Yeah, it's not like we can really.
So I would say if we have 400 new houses that could go on, maybe we should start worrying when we're at 200 new houses that went on the sewer.
Yeah.
That haven't been on the
you're never
sewer.
going to reach that number, Dave.
Well, then, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Why are we
That's all moot
worrying
point.
about it then?
Just saying.
And you know what? Can we do this? I mean, if a hotel came into town,
Yeah, that's my concern.
could we say, hey, you know what? Kinnelon has capacity. You want to put your hotel in town? Buy the capacity from Kinnelon.
What do you mean Kinnelon has capacity?
Kinnelon has sewage capacity.
We hear
Yeah,
that capacity.
Yeah, we hear that all the time.
Okay.
I don't, the truth of the matter is, as long as we have capacity and we're opening it up, we have the right to have a master plan. We have the right to follow a master plan. I think we would have some trouble saying no to somebody if they came to us at this point with a proposal for sewers in a sewer service area, and we had the capacity to do it. Certainly, we would when it came to, somebody proposing homes and affordable homes and that kind of thing. Well, we have capacity. So I don't think we should count on being able to say, purchase it from somewhere else. I think what we can always do is amend our sewer master plan. And that's really the ultimate. If it appears that we're moving too quickly, development's happening, we're losing too much of the capacity that we're comfortable with, the answer is to amend the plan again, as we're doing now when we come to realize that we've got capacity available that we're paying for and not utilizing.
Right, we're not leveraging the asset. And as far as building out, based on those numbers, there's no way we can even build out to those numbers. So really, it's a question of how much more of the town we're going to end up sewering, and at this point, we don't have the money to sewer any more of the town. So again, it kind of comes back to,
But again, 30 years from now, you may be in a different situation.
We don't know what we can imagine the world's going to look like.
I have
and
to
that's
make
true.
my decision based on today.
No.
Today and what we learned in the past. and try
So
to
I would say
going
that
forward.
the red flag goes up when we have 200 additional houses go on.
Or the corresponding amount of effluent.
Right.
Houses, what about?
200 new
If it is a big
hookups.
commercial property like a hotel.
I would guess whatever equates to that.
It's still going to be.
So how do you equate
I
that?
have no idea.
There's a
It
formula.
depends
that
on how
equates
big
to
the
that.
hotel is.
How do you equate that? If somebody was putting up a hotel on, let's say, Alexander Ave. I don't know.
Alexander.
No, I'm just giving an example. So how would that equate to 200 houses or 400 houses?
Right,
Just trying to-
so the New Jersey Administrative Code has it all spelled out for different types of establishments, what the assigned flow would be. So for example, for commercial properties, it's for every 10 square feet equates to 1 gallon a minute. For hotels, it's based on how many rooms there are. For restaurants, it's how many seats. So it's all spelled out what the flow would be for each type of establishment.
I mean, that's my only
So what would it be
concern.
for like a
But then-
200-room hotel?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can get back to Adam and he can share that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know that, because if you do have some commercial development going on, you just want to make sure you're not cutting yourself short here.
Well, let me change that around. So this is going to be a question for you, I presume. If we had an application today for putting a 200-room hotel on Route 23, and either A, they could hook up to the sewers, or B, they're willing to bring the sewers to them, what can we say?
Yes.
We've always in the past said yes. Yeah, exactly right.
So it's a moot point again. Either way, we're saying yes.
Yeah.
So
And
either we're getting
how can you say yes if the capacity's not there?
our capacity is there.
All right.
We know.
Definitely
Right,
have capacity.
But what I'm saying is, what if, like, there was 2 hotels or 3 hotels, whatever? and-
Like, when does it run out with big commercial properties?
With bigger, that's why I'm curious to know how much that one.
I can put some examples together and send it
Yeah,
to Adam.
restaurants, hotels.
Restaurants, we got 2 pads over on 23.
Where are we going to put 2 or 3 hotels?
Never going to put 2 or 3.
I'm
It's
just
never going to
curious.
happen.
Well, like I said, my whole feeling is once we open the store,
But the door's
like
open.
a nice
We have
concerned citizen
capacity
talked
now.
about last time, we have,
That's the problem.
you got to worry about the lines and who's doing it and keeping a careful eye on it. And
But now we
if
have
we're not
all that
doing it, we
criteria.
are losing a lot of control.
Well, no, I think we have more control now because we're
What do you
spelling
mean
it
we're
out.
not doing it? It's still inspected by the town engineer, and it has to follow the town, whatever the town would have done, that's how it's got to be done. I mean, you can't put in a 4-inch pipe when the town says you need a 12-inch pipe, and it needs to be surrounded by this.
Right.
It's got to follow these guidelines.
Just like that guy did when he built his house, X amount of feet, and it went a little bit higher, or when he overbuilt.
But at least now we have it in a master plan.
That was done on a
So
weekend.
now it's
That was
spelled
done on
out.
a weekend. The guy was
I
off.
don't
The guy
think
was
I
off
don't
that
think you're
day.
going to put
I'm
in a
just
sewer
saying,
line in a weekend.
sometimes all the rules aren't followed.
I get it, but at least now we have it spelled out a little bit more.
Dig up the sewers.
They come for
There's always
forgiveness
stuff
later.
spelled out. We've
There's always
seen it.
stuff,
Yeah,
but now we got more
exactly.
clarification.
Yeah. I mean, we do have more clarification, you're right, you're always going to get those people that come ask for forgiveness later, but let's hope we can.
So what is our next step on this?
Good question. Adam?
Well, if the council's comfortable proceeding, the next step would be to schedule the ordinance for introduction.
Let me just make one comment. Let's make sure the public understands, because I got pushback from one of my employees over this, we didn't have to manually hook up to the sewers.
Say that again?
But if it's a town project, you
That's
have
the
to,
part- right,
you
that's
have
the
to
part
hook
you have
up.
to make
If it's a
very, very clear.
project,
They need to
we spelled that out in this, didn't we?
Right.
We did
And
spell
that
it
is-
out.
Right, that is spelled out.
And we will review that again when we have a public hearing, that has been
Okay,
changed.
'cause,
Either Adam or I will do that.
Maybe that gentleman can't read, I'm not quite sure.
Well, now we have it spelled out, which is why I'm comfortable with this. It's clarified.
Yeah, no,
Do we feel good about bringing this up?
I'll bring
For
it up.
introduction?
I think we should move it forward.
I do, because even though it might have got introduced a way we don't all agree with, we decided to update the master plan, we have experts here, they're saying the capacity is there, we really can't, do we really want to tie people's hands and not move forward with development if it's there? And, as far as, sewering and...
Does Two Bridges agree with your report that we have all that capacity?
And based on the current Two Bridges readings, you have basically no INI right now.
Wait,
You didn't answer
Rich.
her question.
Right, yeah.
Does Two Bridges agree?
Who? You asking me or him?
Well, both of you.
Well, you should have, well, let's hope you had conversations with
Well,
two
like you
bridges.
had a conversation with Two Bridges and they said, yes, your findings
There
look...
was not that much communication between him and Two Bridges.
Well, maybe that's what we need them to do.
Well, I
To make us
think,
comfortable.
if I can clarify the councilwoman's question with your permission, the issue is the outstanding capacity. Are your figures consistent with what Two Bridges shared you with respect to information?
Yeah, so I used
agree is tough because they don't have the data to say whether our INI is this or that.
Right, but they
with
didn't
respect to
see-
the available capacity, is that consistent with
Right.
Two Bridges?
Because my question is, you can show me the report and I can read it and go, okay, I have this question, but a lot of it
But
was...
the reality is, Two Bridges only knows what capacity they're selling us and what we're sending down the line.
We bought X amount of capacity from Two Bridges, okay? So you really have to take Two Bridges out of the equation. It's our capacity, have we reached capacity level yet?
Correct.
And did we reach capacity level during a heavy groundwater season where the groundwater was so high? No, we did not hit capacity.
Yes, that's why I said it's the numbers to
So
make
it's
sure.
really not two bridges, this is the capacity we bought. Are we utilizing the whole thing? Or as you like to say, are we utilizing the asset or?
It is an asset.
I know it's an asset, we pay for that asset.
We do. All right, so sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So we're
You can
moving
put on the
forward
next
to the next...
agenda.
You are going to get back to us, though, right? Those figures?
Yes, I'll give you an example.
Thank you.
You have two shots at this, because it has to go through the process of an ordinance.
Correct.
Yes.
And Adam, you're going to get that to us, correct?
Yeah, when I receive the information from Mr. Mittig, I'll forward that to council, and include it in my next report, and the ordinance will be prepared for introduction and placed on the next agenda meeting, which I believe is the 25th of February.
So I guess before we do that, what is he going to report back on, the hotel?
Some examples of what capacity looks like in various systems.
So I would imagine that you're going to look at the new master plan to see what Alexander is zoned for and what potentially could go there?
Yes.
You mean like worst case
Not just
scenario?
Alexander, what about on 23?
Yeah,
Somebody
on
don't want-
23 or whatever.
So I can look at a 200-room hotel, a restaurant.
Give some
Right.
examples.
Yeah.
I think they're just asking for some
Typical examples that would be on.
I'm looking for
And our
what
engineer-
could go
Right.
on Alexander. It might not be a 200-room hotel.
It could be 500.
It may only be 100.
Right.
So
Is
there's
that-
no sense of us giving an example of a 200-room hotel if Alexander is only geared for a 150-room hotel.
Right, right. He's going to
Yeah,
find
but
out.
then you're asking him, who is a
He should
expert
be
in
able to
sewer.
look, he should be able to look at the master plan to be able to tell.
Yeah, but he doesn't know our
But if
ordinances.
it's
for-
200, if it turns out to be 100, we cut the number in half. I just
I
picked
think-
out a random number.
I think if I can speak again for the councilwoman, I
Yeah.
think she was just trying to get an idea of what it
Right.
all looked like.
Right.
Because he's not going to know what we
Yeah.
would allow.
So just
on
half a dozen
Alexander.
examples, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regular, typical
We would
commercial
allow-
thing.
It depends on what it's zoned for, and it goes to the planning board.
Right, but he doesn't know that. That's what I'm saying. He can't make a
Not coming
decision on
from
that.
us.
Yeah.
Adam can go.
Thank you.
We'll talk about
I
it.
appreciate it.
We'll figure it out. All right, thank you, everyone. Reports and notices, there are no reports or notices. Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
The first thing I wanted to bring up was the CDRS, Community Development, whatever it's called, Resource...
Revenue sharing.
Revenue share, right. So, from the town, I'm supposed to be on that, and is it Kyle? And then Dave as the liaison? We're just trying to figure out if we're supposed to be going to this meeting. I don't know if you guys saw the email.
I'm like an alternate or something.
All right, so I'm just trying to find...
I didn't see an email.
Okay.
Did I
I was
get it?
just trying to find out if this is something that...
I didn't get it.
We should definitely be going to?
If
Did
a
you get it?
representative can go,
Okay.
great.
Was I on the email?
I don't know. I think the second, for some reason, I thought Kyle was on there, no?
I believe it's, well, I don't know in which order, but all, the three of you that you identified, yes. I don't know if it's primary, secondary, and tertiary.
Okay, so I should forward this to you, but it's something that they're looking for us to go from the town, so that was the one thing. I
Ma'am?
think it's me and Kyle, and Dave's an alternate.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, what else? And, I think what else? Yeah, so it's me and you. I don't really have anything else. I know that, what meetings do I have coming up? We have, what's today, the 12th? The only thing I have coming up now is I lost my train of thought here. What are we, in the second week of February? So our flood committee will be meeting this Thursday at 7:30 here in this room. And then the economic development committee should be meeting the fourth Wednesday. So that's the only two I have for 7:30, both here in this room. But that's it.
All right, well, thank you very much. Councilman Cole?
First Aid Squad met last night. They had 54 calls for the month of January. Last night was a very packed meeting. They recognized the EMT from Wayne and our local first aid squad members that that participated in the Save at Stop and Shop.
One of them might be here.
Yep, Stacy's one of them.
Yeah,
Thank you very
congratulations,
much.
Stacy, good job.
What'd you do?
So there was a woman that went into cardiac arrest in one of the aisles at Stop and Shop. Stop and Shop put over the PA. If anyone with medical training, please report to Rosa Food Aisle, I think. I don't know what it was, but there was a Wayne EMT there with her husband. She said last night her husband and her have been married for 9 years and they've never shopped on a Saturday.
Wow.
But they were there that
They're there for a
Saturday. She
reason.
said all of the stars aligned for this woman. She was 54 years old, went into cardiac arrest. She was the Wayne EMT was first on the scene. Then the Pequannock police were there. They did the defibrillator, portable defibrillator, AED, I believe 2 to 4 times on her. Pequannock's first aid squad arrived. Chilton's paramedics arrived. They worked on the woman for 45 minutes in Stop and Shop before they moved her. I believe she spent 3 or 4 days at Chilton. She was then moved to Morristown Hospital, and she was with us last night.
Wow.
So it was
great story.
quite the experience. I said, I've never saved a person, saved someone's life before, but it must be a tremendous feeling. I thanked them all for what they did, and you know what? We should all learn basic CPR, just in case, something ever like that does happen. I hear the chest compressions are the most important thing. I hear there's like 35 chest compressions to one breath. And they say the most important thing is the chest compressions. To keep those chest compressions going. My biggest fear would be of hurting the person.
Right.
But they say that, if you break a couple ribs and you're able to save someone, to get the heart back beating, it's worth a couple broken ribs. So, yeah. So, congratulations to everyone that participated. It was quite the teamwork from everyone, and it was very nice to see the woman there last night. So,
Amazing.
yeah, it was amazing. So, that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Councilman Phelan?
I don't have anything. I was traveling last week, so I really don't have anything.
Are you traveling anywhere good?
Texas,
Warm.
Vermont.
Very nice. All right, Deputy Mayor Russell.
Nothing on my committees, just a few dates I have. February 21st is the Jazz Night and Tricky Trade for the Pequannock High School Band.
Cool.
March 1st is Pancake Breakfast for Troop 144. March 10th, we have the Taste of the Town for Unico. Now that starts at 5:30. If anybody wants to go, I might try to go there right at 5:30 to be here by 7. So March 22nd is the Grains of Hope. And March 28th is the mini golf and tricky tray at the library.
Oh, March is going to be very busy.
March is busy. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see, to echo that, I've got Pequannock Chamber and FBLA Business Expo, which is going to be over at the high school, Monday, April 27th. We've got Jones Hardware Store Memorial Plate Dedication, and that will be Tuesday, May 12th, 6 p.m. Annual Pequannock Street Festival, Sunday, June 7th. We also have a Pequannock Chamber Burger Bash, which is September 20th. I will definitely be there. And kind of echo Councilman Cole, I mean, I've got the email in front of me, and it was absolutely amazing. I understand that it's their job, the police, first responders and whatnot, but when something like this comes across your desk and you realize that it's very heartfelt and they're thanking our community, it definitely makes me proud to live in Pequannock. Most of the people that are on this list live in Pequannock as well, so I really do appreciate that, and I want to echo that you guys do amazing things, even though it's your job, but if it wasn't your job, It is all volunteer, so big heartfelt shout out for first responders, police, and everybody else involved. Other than that,
The Wayne chief was there,
Wayne Chief.
first aid, and he said he was a little disappointed that she was shopping in Pequannock instead of shopping in Wayne. But we were happy that she was shopping in Pequannock that day.
That was amazing.
So, one other date, is anyone going to the League of Municipalities dinner on February 19th?
Oh, yes.
I am.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry, who is?
Kyle?
Do you have a list of who are speak, Pete? I think I already did.
Kyle and Melissa, I think?
Yes, I'm down for that
I
too.
saw
Birchwood
Carl's
Manor.
VP.
Yeah,
Melissa and I have a dinner afterwards, women dinner.
Yeah.
So,
So we'll go there first. and then head out. I mean,
Awesome.
you can come.
Are you sure? Are you inviting me?
just tell Laura.
I don't know. What to tell Laura?
Did you bring the picture? All right.
Give you a week.
With that said, next on the agenda is public comment. If anybody wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come up to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. I think I recognize that guy. Frank, come on up.
Frank Spizzeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue. Two things. Good news is the audio is back on Channel 77. Thank you,
right.
whoever did that. So you guys can now be heard. Second is something about the sewers. I know you guys don't have enough money to do the rest of the town, and you're kind of strapped and all that good stuff. But yet you're talking about using whatever we have available. I don't know how many gallons we have available. Let's say there's 400,000 gallons available, and you're going to put a hotel in, and they're going to use 200,000 gallons. You only have 2 left. What about the rest of the town here that pays the taxes every year? You're looking for them to pay more tax out there, but we're already paying, and I have sewers, so it really doesn't include me, but I'm just thinking ahead for those people, like first, second, third, somewhere over in like Van Riper and all that other section where they don't have sewers.
Right.
You got to think ahead for those people also. So you got to keep some of that reserve because those people deserve to get the sewers.
I agree.
I think more so than the guys that are going to be building a
Well, we're
business
asking
over on the highway.
how much a 200-room hotel would eat up in our application.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much that
Well,
they're going to use,
he's
but,
going to tell us.
right, so.
Frank, you also have to remember,
Yeah.
but Frank, if I may, you also have to remember that under our current plan, you couldn't do sewer, most of us couldn't get sewers, right? Because
Right.
today, if you're not in an area, priority area, there can be no extension of the sewer.
Right.
So for many people who live here and pay taxes, this will open up the possibility of sewers, where before that was not possible.
I think it's-
So it's sort of this back and forth.
But it's only going to open up to people who have big dollars.
Who want to pay for it. Yeah, it's going to open it up to people who are willing to pay for it.
Let's be honest,
That's
this
true.
is only,
That's true.
it's not for everybody, only for people who can
So
afford
there's
it.
sort of two issues. One is how to open up,
Right.
the other is what do you reserve for future development, and that's another whole subject.
Right, but we have to keep thinking ahead of them, because those people are still here. That business may open up tomorrow, and 2 months from now, they may close. How do you know that? You don't know. But that guy that's living on First Street, has been there for 35, 40 years, you know, and he'll pay his share of the sewer assessment, whatever he's assessed, like I am. So just keep that in mind, that, you know,
Absolutely.
And
us out there,
And I believe Alex said that even if we reserve for first, second, third, and fourth, we could still sewer 400 additional houses on top of that.
right, but that's not the only section of town that doesn't have sewers.
Correct.
So I'm talking about the whole township of Pequannock, not just that one little section, okay? So just keep that in mind, please.
I really don't know what we're worried about, because if Kyle says it's only going to be for people that have money, then we're going to have probably 600 houses that still have capacity if the hotel comes in, because nobody's going to do it. I think people are going to do it.
All right, thank you, Frank. All right, approval of minutes. Next on the agenda is minutes for approval. Let's see, January 2nd, 2020 reorganization meeting, and January 14th, January 28th, 2020 regular meetings. Carol?
Yes.
You want to, what do we do now?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
It's in there.
I'll second.
All right, let's go through it again. Can I get are there any comments on these minutes? That being a no, is there a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make a
Rich?
motion to approve these minutes.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent, we got that down.
Closed session, there are no items for closed session discussion. That's it. So adjournment, there being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:52.